Namaskar, we are back with Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. This week, India took over the presidentship of G20, the biggest grouping of the world's most powerful and emerging economies. Meanwhile, there was tremendous churning in the big tech world, particularly Twitter, Meta and Amazon. We will go into all that, but before that, what made news? There is no good terrorism and bad terrorism, and a cost must be imposed upon those who support terror. Prime Minister Narendra Modi minced no words in calling out terror sympathizers and supporters while addressing the No Money for Terror conference. PM Modi called upon the world to adopt a zero-tolerance policy towards terror and defeat the global challenge. The final declaration adopted at the end of the G20 summit in Indonesia clearly had the Indian stamp, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks that this is not the time for war formed the overarching philosophy of the document. G20 leaders agreed that while the countries were sharply divided over Ukraine, PM Modi's stance was the only acceptable thought for all. While taking charge of the presidentship of the all-powerful forum, Prime Minister emphasized that India's term of the grouping would be inclusive and action-oriented. Forced conversions are a violation of one's rights. There may be freedom of religion in India, but not freedom for forceful conversion. Coming down heavily on forced conversions, a Supreme Court bench made these observations earlier this week. The bench asked the central government to enumerate the steps being taken to curb this challenge. A huge row broke out between allies, Congress and Shiv Sena's Uddhav faction following Rahul Gandhi's demeaning comments about Veer Savarkar. Former Chief Minister and Congress ally Uddhav Thackeray said he did not agree with Rahul Gandhi's remarks on Veer Savarkar and nobody could wipe off Savarkar's contribution. He demanded Bharat Ratna for Veer Savarkar. Meanwhile, Deputy CM Devendra Fadnavis has said that Rahul Gandhi has been lying shamelessly on the question of Savarkar. The horrible murder and chopping of body parts to dispose the dead body of a young woman, Shraddha Walkar, has been all over the media the whole week. After Poonawalla, the prime accused has been reported to have exercised untold brutality in disposing his partner Shraddha's dead body. Investigations are being carried out all over Delhi, NCR and Maharashtra. Police are also investigating if Aftab had an accomplice with him in the heinous crime. Elon Musk is on a sacking spree. Meta is already sacking more than 11,000 employees, and Amazon has also threatened to go for massive layoffs. So the question is, are these ups and downs only limited to larger scale sacking in the big tech world, or is there something more to it? To understand these very quick, fast and sinister developments, I have two very special guests with me here who will help us to understand and decipher what exactly is this churning going on in the big tech world, the churning and after. Joining me on the show this evening to understand and decipher the subject, I have Subimal Bhattacharjee, well-known cyber and IT issues expert. You have heard him on Media Scan on earlier occasions. Welcome back, Subimal. Great to have you back. Also joining me, Prasanna Vishwanathan, CEO, co-founder of the well-known Swarajya portal. You have heard his views on Media Scan on earlier occasions. He is known to speak his mind. Prasanna sir, welcome back. So good to have you.
Thank you so much, Smita, for hosting me once again. It's my pleasure and privilege to join you on this show.
And Prasanna sir, with your experience, your understanding of the digital world, the media and technology, my first question comes to you. What exactly is going on in the big tech world, sir? Twitter, Meta, now Amazon. Do you think we are really at a transition phase, or is it more serious than that?
No, I think Twitter is typically not classified as a part of the big tech. Okay, so in that sense, I think Twitter's issues are very unique. So you have a maverick billionaire who's acquired it. Actually, he's actually, I mean, unlike any other acquisition here, you have a tech titan I mean, he's much more than that. He's like a iconic figure who's created some really great corporations elsewhere also. He's disrupting the automobile business, and he's disrupting the space technology business. And I think, I don't know, like what exactly drove him to buy Twitter. And then, I mean, one, of course, he's free speech absolutist by his own assertion. So proper, and he looks at Twitter as a kind of a digital public square, and so he wants to transform it. So that apart, okay, Twitter's, I think, problems are quite unique. But I think big tech, which is largely GAFA, Mama, whatever you call, like, Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, or which is, Facebook now renamed as Meta. I think their set of problems are quite different, actually. I mean, like each one of them, Meta and Facebook, the Meta, aka Facebook, I think essentially what has happened is that sometime around last year, right, I think their advertising revenues came under serious pressure because of a host of reasons, including a significant change in which Google's, basically, because of that Apple-related, iOS-related changes for tracking the sites that the user visits and all, their revenues have been under pressure. And also, Facebook has faced a lot of issues around user privacy and all that, which has been a big issue. So I think even
so Mr. Vishwanathan, if we keep it to Facebook and Twitter for this moment, do you think the challenges they are facing are transitory? They are likely to settle down in a while?
No.
Or do you think it's a bigger challenge?
Definitely, I know Facebook, Meta is definitely a structural challenge, because what Zuckerberg is trying to do is actually trying to pivot away from the the social media Facebook model, and he's betting big on this metaverse, actually, with a completely new business player. I think he's pouring in a lot of money, and I don't think so there are any quick wins possible for him. And also, the social media, which is his primary revenue earner till now. I mean, Facebook has had a dream run till a couple of years back, right? That needs to cross-fund and subsidize his metaverse business initiative, broadly speaking.
And most of the experts are already commenting, sir, that the dream run seems to have, there is a break on the dream run, it seems. It might come back. But allow me to bring in Subimal here first, and I shall come back to you on how it's going to impact countries like India. Subimal Bhattacharjee, so many claims about now Twitter finally becoming for the people, of the people, etc. by Elon Musk, followed by all these massive sackings. You think this is kind of a cleansing that is happening, and Elon Musk has a longer plan in mind? Or do you think it is more of, as Prasanna said, a maverick move, and we are actually, all those hashtags about RIP Twitter may actually have some reality to it?
I think as we speak, every moment or every day we are seeing something coming up in Twitter. So while the intent, as many of us understood, is to make it far much more open, to make it far much more available, but the rumblings that are going on, the structural changes that Mr. Musk is possibly trying to do for the good, are not necessarily giving a lot of confidence to many of the users, particularly today, when media consumption hasn't remained confined to the print and the television, and has gone far much bigger with the social media platforms, and particularly in the case of Twitter, where a lot of first and authentic source news used to come out. There are concerns about when the stability will actually happen when it comes to Twitter. whether
Subhimalda, I was just curious, like so many other consumers of these, microblogging sites, I was just thinking, certainly they have become a source of first-hand news for many people who do not even have something to do with the, news media sometimes. But the moot question is, of course, there will always be some people who have a well-thought, concerted campaign. There may be agendas involved. But for a common consumer, do you think there is a kind of disappointment settling in with things not really going on track?
Yeah, that's what is. I am also trying to refer to Smita ji. Somewhere where it gave the opportunity, or where it was a kind of a de facto platform for a lot of people to express, the common citizens actually becoming journalists of some form, trying to put across their content, whether in the form of text or videos or audio. I think all of that somewhere is creating some rattling in a few minds. So Mr. Musk has to somewhere stabilize this. Today with so much of layoffs again, there, and some of the technical functionality is becoming a problem. That's the concern that is coming up even more. That are the changes that he's trying to do, and then taking the people away are actually they becoming a hindrance in what intent he promised as far as the platform is concerned.
I think you have spoken for all of us, Subhimal Bhattacharya, because yes, those concerns and those apprehensions are coming in. But I want to bring back Prasanna here on one question which you raised just now. Prasanna Vishwanathan, I am particularly concerned about countries like ours, where despite all the threats and the exaggerations and the dangers that are involved, social media did and has become a very empowering tool for the common people who do not have access to government corridors and all various systems, whether it is education, health and so many other facilities and services. They have been using their simple Twitter account, which costs nothing, and Facebook, to voice their concerns and their demands, their worries. Now that Mr. Musk is coming with this idea of, making it a paying platform, and certainly Meta has some plans in mind, do you think this is going for a direction of improvement, or are you apprehensive?
No, I think it's too early to say. See, first of all, Twitter is a private corporation. That's the first thing. In the new CEO, once he acquired it, he did it right. So, in that sense, though it is a private company, obviously it has a very outsized influence on the public discourse, not just Western democracies across the world. So, there are two issues. One, I think definitely, there was a case for, I think, workforce rationalization in Twitter, because if you really look at a lot of roles that faced, where there were large-scale layoffs, it were not essentially, I think, in engineering and product-related teams. It was more in all the, say, soft marketing roles, and where the public relations role, and some kind of, I would call broadly, the non-technical roles. So to that extent, I think it is little. I think we might be little premature in saying that. About the stability of the platform. Couple of days back, I think again, Elon Musk in his own style emphasized on the kind of work ethics and long hours required by the Twitter employees and all. And
do you think if we leave aside Mr. Musk for a moment, do you think all this churning that is happening, people are now having a lot of doubts? You must have seen all those posts yourself. Do you think this will become an opportunity for some other platforms in the microblogging area, to come up as an option? Because as of now, we have had limited.
See, actually, there are, of course, there is, from an Indian context, we have Coup, which is still, according to me, a fledgling platform, though. Yes. I think the founders who created it, they have good vision, and possibly we need to stay about the staying power. See, it's not so very easy to replicate a social media platform, because so many things go into it. And See, to be honest, there have been several other competing social platforms which are emerged, but hardly all of it tend to be very ideological echo chambers. Like, for example, even the former president of US, right, uh, 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 Donald Trump, his controlled entity started a social media microblogging platform called Truth Social, which hardly took off. Then I think there is one kind of left led platform, Mastodon or something like that, which again, it's not even technically complete. It's actually crowd-funded. You can't build a platform of this nature. Social media platform of this nature, depending on crowdfunding for all things. Okay? So I think there was definitely some. See, a lot of people kind of, don't like Elon Musk for multiple reasons, political, possibly that he's a free speech absolute. Some genuinely worry that there will be a return of toxicity in Twitter and all that. So there are some users who moved away from Twitter to other platforms.
But Prasanna, there is a large segment of the population worldwide, including in India, who also felt that the earlier management of Twitter had their own agendas, they were trying to push upon us. So I'll bring in Subhimal on that. Yes, quickly.
Yeah. No, the last point. That's why I think, it's kind of again become like kind of for a want of a better phrase, like a elite versus commoner, So you really see that people who cheer on Elon Musk for this acquisition and all are typically people who kind of imagine themselves as the quote unquote the voiceless or the powerless, and they kind of want them to be restored back actually. So the dynamics is much more complex than that, but largely speaking, that's the point.
Subhimal, whether it is Elon Musk or whether it was the previous management of Twitter and the people who are running the show at Meta as well, do you think they had political agendas to push? Do you think there was an effort to, subdue the voices of a particular viewpoint in India and in various countries of the world? And also, what do you think, how much of it do you think may have mattered in the current churning that we are going through? Did they fail to gauge the minds of the common consumers?
Well, the previous management as far as Twitter is concerned and the management as far as Meta is concerned, I think and most of the occasions, particularly when it came to India, if you saw that very many times the requests, for cooperation or requests for information by law enforcement from the country often were met with, dilly-dallying tactics or trying to hide behind the laws of California or the user terms and conditions that they had. So, and this was not only related to India, it was with most of the countries. So somewhere, there was a kind of a concern that, this was, or this, with this attitude, you cannot run, these platforms which have the prospects and which will rather perform like public spaces.
And if I may add, Subhimal, it led to a lot of political debate, lot of back and forth the last year and the year before that. To be fair, as you have just flagged, while they kept claiming that they are completely in cooperation with the law enforcement agencies, we know for a fact that these companies were trying to stonewall the efforts of the government to bring them within the purview of the law, and that debate still continues. Considering the current churning that is going on, which way do you think it might go? Do you think they will become cooperative towards the law, or is this stonewalling going to continue?
No, I think a message has gone down very clearly, and India taking the lead with the intermediary guidelines rules last year, followed by the amendment just a couple of weeks back. That, the sovereignty of a nation is above all kinds of, user terms and conditions or positions that these platforms might take. I think the due diligence and the responsibility that these platforms needed to take so as to get the advantage of safe harbor for content moving through their platforms. I think, that was somewhere getting abused. That was, or rather than, something that this platform should have done better. And that is where we came up with the guidelines, and that is where just last month the European Parliament also published the Digital Services
Yes.
Act. These are all on the same lines, that you have to bring these platforms to responsibility.
Prasanna Vishwanathan, your quick comment on that. Now even the EU countries in the Western world are trying to follow what India had initiated, and at that stage we remember what a campaign had been run against our government trying to curb free speech, etc. And these companies themselves had done their best not to come within the purview of the new law, and they still continue to do so. This debate about safe harbor on the one side of the intermediaries, while the government's effort to ensure that people's rights are safeguarded, which way do you see this debate going in future, considering the current developments?
Yeah, I think this is something, a space that we need to watch. Of course, the previous management of Twitter, though I think the original founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, I think he's largely a kind of a libertarian.
Yeah.
But, of course, there is this management layer which comes in, and then you have the, the government relations PR layer. They come in with their own ideological worldview, right? So, but under the new Twitter dispensation, it needs to be seen how this unfolds, because Elon Musk himself philosophically is a free speech absolutist, though I think as he has kind of indicated that Twitter will be compliant with the domestic laws. And other point that I quickly want to make,
Yes.
Smita, is that there is another complexity that somebody like Elon Musk owning platform like Twitter comes into play. For instance, he has other businesses, like he has a hugely successful EV business. He has, which I think has a lot of dependence on, say, a state like a country like China. They have a huge gigafactory which there in Shanghai. So the state, a country like China could potentially have a leverage over a businessman like Musk, considering his business prospects. But he's been generally seen to at least self-proclaimed free speech absolutist. Musk doesn't have as much.
Are you saying that in this world of Twitter and others, this China is actually the elephant in the room when it comes to the future?
It's a big elephant in the room, because one, of course, I don't think so many of these platforms are even allowed to operate there, actually, right? And
yet they are strong enough to influence others.
Yeah, so I think one other additional dimension which I think was not there under the previous dispensation of Twitter is Elon Musk's own business interest. This is a commitment to what he calls the free speech absolutism, how
Yes.
it plays. But I think from a larger perspective, I think India has now kind of figured out what is the kind of regulatory regime that we need to do. India is also broadly committed to free speech and democratic discourse in the digital arena, right? Actually, but we also need to have we do have serious issues in maintaining law and order and stability.
Yes.
So the regulatory framework has to balance both, and I think India has kind of done good so far. And let's see how this unfolds under the new. It's too early to say, according to me, whether it could be for good or bad.
So you have already given us your perspective on what you think will be the future, especially for a country like India, where the society is so diverse. It is such a multi-layered society with so many, different cultures living together. We have to keep in mind the sensitivities of all our people. But coming back to Subimal on that, Subimal, your take on the future of microblogging, social media sites, considering the current developments, and are you optimistic or you are not?
No, I think, they have their own roles and plays. It's that they have to have that efficacy for, the users and the regulators alike, to see that the medium remains safe, responsible to the governments in terms of, maintaining law and order and all other aspects, that are defined in the constituencies. And as even if you take in India's case, 2.5 crore Twitter users, 24 crore Facebook users. So these are huge, and India is growing, digitally. People are connecting so much, and also I think, the propensity to get into social media will remain in most geographies. And it is a matter of time that they have to be, put in place so that they are not only seen to be reliable, they have to be reliable. Otherwise, it, shakes the faith, in the medium.
Right. Thank you for putting it so clearly. And on that note, I will have to wind up the conversation for this evening. But of course, the churning that is going on is likely to continue, and we shall come back to you, Subimal and Prasanna, to see which way it goes. Thank you very much, Subimal Bhattacharjee, for connecting to us at such a short notice. Great to have you. And Prasanna Vishwanathan on Media Scan after a very, very long time. It was very interesting to have your perspective, sir. Do join again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nita, for hosting. Thank you.
The interesting developments in the big tech world may continue for some more time, and like you viewers, we shall be keeping a watch on which way it goes. But meanwhile, while India is one of the countries of priority for these companies because of our huge digital penetration, it is important to note that the freedom, the rights and the safety of our citizens must remain our prime concern. On that note, it's a wrap up on Media Scan for this evening. Namaskar.